And at this time, I am super grateful and honored to introduce our next speakers, Jana and Jason Shelfer, who present Mic Mastery, Unlocking the Unexpected Benefits of Podcasting. And I know they have a lot more that they can share with us this evening. Jana and Jason are the creators of the Living Lucky podcast, which has brought them an unexpected treasure of opportunities, from speaking invitations and collaborative relationships to community building, personal growth, and even opening the door to a TV show. Wow. This podcast has become a wellspring of indirect wealth for them. I originally met Jana and Jason several years ago at a Toastmasters event, but we reconnected last year at TEDx Houston. They have an incredible story on how podcasting has transformed their lives and opened doors, and they're here to share that journey with us. Jana and Jason will help us determine if podcasting might be the next step for you, giving us practical advice on how to get started. So with that said, let's give a warm keynote and more welcome to our next speakers, Jana and Jason.
Good evening.
Hello.
We're used to saying good morning.
That's right.
I'm Jana.
I'm Jason.
And we have a company called Living Lucky. And just to give you a brief idea, it's a mindset. Living lucky for us is the highest vibration, because when you feel lucky, you feel, go ahead and put it in the chat. What do you feel? The last time you said, I feel lucky, how did you really feel? Because for us, we often feel like life is working in our favor. Nick says, doing it. Kathy says, so blessed, happy and excited.
Feel chosen. You kind of have that swagger thinking, well, I'm so lucky, nothing's going to go wrong here.
And we feel that if we attach lucky to anything that we do, then there is an energy that you get into and you become unstoppable. And so we named our company Living Lucky. So right now, we're just going to get into a state of gratitude. And I want everyone to answer this question. I am so lucky to be attending Toastmasters tonight because, and I'm really interested in what you have to say, because Toastmasters has been such a huge part of our life. It actually launched our entire
speaking career
company here. And Maria says, energized because I'm surrounded by greatness. I love that. I learn and I grow is from Christy. That is so great. I get to see my friends and family. There's connection. There's speaking.
John says, I always leave with more than I arrived with.
Yes. I mean, it's not always about learning our message. There's so much more to Toastmasters. And then just to follow up on this question, I'm going to go ahead and ask another one so that I can show up more effectively in my role as, because I know Toastmasters often attracts not only speakers, but facilitators, trainers, leaders,
coaches, managers. There's a place in Toastmasters for any occupation, any role that you may have in life from around the world.
So what is it for you? Why are you here? What is Toastmasters helping you create in your life? Let's connect that dot because it makes a huge difference. Maria says she is becoming a speaker. John says he is a mentor, a coach, a motivator. Yes. And for us, as we started this whole journey, it was difficult for us to really see the end goal. We didn't know exactly what we wanted to create. Jason wanted to be a coach. I thought I wanted to be a speaker, but then I tend to kind of go over to the entertainment side. Sometimes I feel like I just want to be a comedian. So as we have evolved our goals have changed. And as speakers, you know the nuances of showing up as those different sectors is just slightly different. And that is why a podcast has been so beneficial to Jason and I.
Especially in our journey and the way we came about doing it and the way it was kind of birthed.
It allows us to practice. It allows us to evolve. It allows us to become. So we'll share with you how our podcast started.
Our journey.
In January of 2020, I said, I'm going to be an international speaker. I had one speaking engagement thanks to Toastmasters. And then in March of 2020, the pandemic happened. And all of a sudden, my goal of speaking in 3 different countries became quite different because all of a sudden I was doing it virtually. I was speaking in other countries virtually. Jason happened to be home because his sales business
ended up on Zoom.
Yeah, so he's at home. And I thought, you know what? Let's take this opportunity and let's play. So we literally took a guest bedroom. We got rid of the furniture. We put the furniture out on the curb and we started making a studio. We just started getting our creative juices flowing. We went into this room and we just started acting as if we had clients listening to us. We started acting as if we were delivering all of the nuggets that we were learning from all of our mentors and our coaches. And we just started sharing. And as we started speaking together, we started learning.
And clarifying.
We started practicing. So if you want to be a speaker, you need to speak. If you want to be a coach, you need to coach. And many times trying to find those different gigs, the keynotes, or finding the groups to go to, there's hustle involved. However, if you create a platform for yourself, like a podcast,
you get to bring the crowd to you.
You can create your own stage. I just want to check some chat to see if I'm missing anything here. Love the as if attitude. That's what Becky says. Love the as if attitude. So when we created our podcast, it allowed us to practice and what we call navigating the C's. What are the C's, Jason?
The C's, it's clarification, it's consistency, it's being clear, concise, confident.
Building your community, connecting, learning to communicate with each other in our case. So it was really just our way of practicing who we are becoming.
And really kind of finding out who we're becoming, because we started off very just with very imperfect action, but the conversations between the two of us gave us a way of kind of navigating that line, kind of what Nick was talking about. When collaboration brings richness, it also helps you really fine tune and hone where you're going. So you're laying the pavement together forward.
One last thing I want to add in this section is it allowed our souls to really hone in on what it is that we want to share with the world. What is the impact that we want to make? So our message started to hone in as we spoke and developed this podcast without even realizing it. So just to conclude, in what we're saying in this first section is our podcast became a means goal. We didn't set out to be podcasters. We didn't set out to say, hey, we're going to make a lot of money like Joe Rogan or, the Big Daddy podcast. We didn't, that wasn't our goal. Our goal was, hey, let's just play, let's have fun, and let's just practice becoming who it is that we want to be. And so that was our why, that was our intention. And not to minimize the fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty. However, as long as we just kept it playtime, we started. And that tends to be the biggest obstacle.
It was enjoyable, and it also gave us that wherewithal to have a longer runway, because you'll see when we post our numbers, we went a long time with very few downloads. but it was fun and engaging for us to just do it together.
How many people here have a podcast? I know many are on the journey just like us, and I would love to see, raise your hand if you have a podcast. Gina says, me too. Who is it we want to be? Yes. So if you have a podcast, put it in the chat. Nick says he's got one. Nick, we need to collaborate. Yes. Okay. So for us, there's been so many unexpected benefits, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to go through some of the phases that we experienced as we started to build our little, we call it our pandemic baby, really. Yeah. We call it an elf because it's easy,
lucrative and fun.
So it's our pandemic elf. That's what we have created here. So I just want to say phase 1 is all about the creation mode. Now, when you are creating, we overcomplicated everything.
For sure.
We got into technology, and technology
let's get soundboards. Let's get all the 6 mics around a table. Let's build a table so that the mics can come up from in the middle of the table and not have any cords anywhere.
We made it way too complicated. We actually had video cameras, and then next thing you know, we had like 4 video cameras, and we were just overcomplicating everything. And what else made this complicated is that then we immediately said, we're going to interview people. So we would have other people calling in, and we would try to get them on screen. And then we were trying to edit it all together. It became so overwhelming and so overly complicated that we actually did it for about 6 months. And then we put it on the shelf for over a year. And we were like, I'm not doing that. It's not fun. We were fighting. Unfun. It became unfun.
And if it's not fun, why do it?
Yes.
If it's not if it's not a have to.
Yes. So our first thing is in the creation mode is keep it fun and don't overcomplicate things.
Yeah. Does anybody else out there ever complicate things, or is it just me?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Christy says I do. Not that she complicates things, but that she also
has a podcast.
I hear you.
4 years now.
I hear you. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to go to phase 2. In phase 2, it's all about the input. Now, here's where when you have a podcast, you have all this data that's coming your way, and you can actually see who's watching, how long they're watching, and you start to take in all this data. Now, if you actually internalize the data, it can be a roadblock, and here's why.
There's some couch warriors out there that want to tell you everything you're doing wrong.
It also, if you have expectations, if you're a high achiever like I am, that can be a setback, because all of a sudden I'm like, I don't understand. We had a great podcast and we got 6 downloads.
Yeah. And so, and if you look at someone like Sarah, and she's got the 350 blog views or readers.
350,000.
350,000.
Let me just correct you on that.
1,000.
Yes.
Then a
Sarah
lot of times
would appreciate.
We think, why am I not getting that? Why am I not getting this response? And it starts to weigh on you. But that's, again, where it's give yourself the runway and work on process over results.
Yes. So what we do is we concentrated on our input, and that meant consistency, showing up. Did we show up today? Did we show up? Did we put out a product? And we're still at this point, we were still creating I call it the cookie recipe. So you're still like figuring out, which, is it salt, flour? I don't even know how to make cookies.
Salt, flour, sugar.
Maybe that's not the best.
Chocolate chips, M&Ms.
Yes, maybe that's not the best analogy. But you're still figuring out the cookie recipe. It's just important to not internalize the output data that's coming your way, because it is coming your way. And you're also starting to attract people. And people oftentimes will give you their opinion. And I know they're just giving it in the best of all intentions. However, I had a background in radio. And so as we were becoming thought leaders and coaches and talking about mindset every single day, we often got comments like, "Oh my God, you used to be so much fun. And now all you
were
do
fun
is
and cheery.
talk about this self-development crap."
Jason thinks he's a professor.
Yeah. So, connect with the people that do leave comments, because we are always so grateful for any comment,
Right?
because it will help the algorithms, even if they are complaining about you.
But give yourself permission to experiment, permission to have fun, and permission to just throw the spaghetti up against the wall.
And you're also in this phase, you are learning the workflow. You're learning, I mean, we started out, our podcast was 30 minutes long. Now we're down to about 10, because
And we don't do editing.
People's attention is very small, and it's getting smaller and smaller. I'm sure all of you have realized this in your social media feeds.
In your speeches.
And yes, I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried talking to a high school group. That's like, attention is small. So we have reduced the size. So workflow is very, very important. And then last, the third phase that we find is to concentrate on value. Now, most people say, "Oh, I need to market it, and I need to let everyone know about my podcast, and I need to do all sorts of advertising for my podcast." We say no. We say concentrate on adding value every single time you show up. If you can add just one little nugget of value, it will grow organically, and it will grow on its own.
Yeah, and that was a choice that we made for ourselves. Like we spent a ton of money on equipment that we didn't need. And then we also had decided that we are not going to be buying ads, pushing advertisement, and just seeing what happened, experimenting. And what happened is, over a 2-year period, it looked like nothing was happening, but the cumulative effect of hitting that 2-year mark started really pushing us into numbers that I didn't expect.
Okay. I need to see John's screen so that I know how my time is going. Let me know if we're going way over.
Probably put it in the chat.
Okay.
We're using technology that blocks.
So I just want to answer
with about 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I want to answer Kathy's question. She says, "How long did it take to become a successful podcast?" We're still becoming.
Yeah.
We are still becoming. And let me just give you a little, this is one of the potholes. So I speak in potholes because I use a wheelchair. And this is one of the potholes, the traps, the challenges that we want to caution you of. And that is that people start a podcast and they start getting these notifications. "Hey, would you like to monetize? Would you like to put a commercial? And we'll pay you a couple cents every time someone listens." And people are very quick to say, sign me up.
How do I turn this in money? Because the more people that do that, I'll get more pennies.
And we decided we're going to play the long game. And let me just show you how this has resulted for us. So if you can see this, in the first 2.5 years, we barely had any downloads. Now, I will say that I put this project on the shelf for
a couple of months in there.
For quite a while.
It was probably half a year or more.
Yeah, for quite a while right here. I put this project on the shelf. I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And then I started in like right here, I started seeing it's growing on its own. So this is what's so great about podcasting is these are residual views. Residual. And these people keep coming back. And not only have they been coming back, but this has developed into opportunities that we never knew would come. I've had keynotes that have come from the podcast saying, "Hey, I listen to your podcast and we have this event coming and I'd like you to be the keynote speaker." And one of them paid $10,000. So for me, that makes up for the 3 years that we've been doing this with zero pay.
Yeah, and as a coach, I've had clients that have paid me upwards of $40,000 to come just be in part of their cohorts and facilitation of group coaching. So it's a platform to get noticed and to be authentic. And I think that's one of the biggest things that our listeners love and look for is the authenticity and the rawness. Like we do zero editing on our podcast. We do a one-shot take,
yes.
And and then we work through some of the issues that we have in those communication moments.
I also want to say the more vulnerable that I show up, the more I talk about the struggles that I'm having. Now, we both can't have struggles on the same day. Otherwise, we start like, oh, woe is me. Woe is me.
And it's thoughtful vulnerability, not raw vulnerability.
Yes. However, the more I show up and talk about my limiting beliefs, talking about fear, doubt, uncertainty, and then it not only allows Jason to almost coach me on the spot, but it allows me to work through things. This podcast has helped us in so many ways. It has just been a treasure. And so I highly suggest
creating your stage.
Just create your own stage, because that's what we've done. And again, the opportunities have come to us in a roundabout way. However, the podcast is the one thing that we have been consistent with the entire time. And we just feel so lucky because we look back at how far we've come. And when we started this, I didn't believe in myself. I was bitter about the radio business. I was bitter. I thought I had hit these invisible ceilings in life. And this podcast has helped me believe in myself, believe in the people around me, believe in my circumstances, and believe that a higher power is working through us, for us, and always in our favor.
Always.
So thank you so much. And we just want to put out there that if any of you, we're going to put Jason's phone number, and this is our podcast. So if you feel so inclined, we would love to have you part of the Living Lucky community. But this is Jason's phone number.
That's my cell. If you have a question or if you want.
And we would be more than happy to help you get on a path. I mean, we've never coached anyone on starting a podcast, but Toastmasters has been so great to us that we want to throw this out there. And if we can help you in any way, I'm pretty good at editing. I'm pretty good at production, and I would love to volunteer my services. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for having us. Keep living lucky.
Yes.